So welcome for the session, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
So we have seen, so since the topic of this session is the law school insider, so I believe a lot of students have multiple doubts regarding this particular law school, and I will gradually pick up the few questions which I believe it's general and few are specific also.
Oh,
So let's start, sir.
yeah, please, please.
So, how, according to you, the BITS Law School is set apart from other law school in terms of the curriculum and the teaching methodology?
Okay, that's a nice question because I have been a firm believer that the kind of teaching which today is happening in law school has to be enhanced. So I'm not saying that it's not something which should be recommended, but if ever we have seen that there is a kind of a stagnation in terms of how education is now being perceived with the new education policy and all. I think it is with the mode of delivery, you know, and mode of delivery is something which needs to be practical. No doubt about it. We have moot courts, we have internships, but then there is a lot of practical things which a student needs to learn.
Right.
We are just going ahead and doing the same rhetoric which has happened throughout the times.
Right.
So I remember I'm always reminded of the great work done by the dean of Harvard Law School, Christopher Columbus Langdell, Professor Christopher Columbus Langdell, who was a dean of law school and who was the first one to introduce case study method into Harvard. And the moment he did that, there were many people who were like naysayers, and they were the ones who were thinking that this is not the way of doing it. But then, if you see, it was evolution. He thought something which no one else was even thinking, and that's specifically which is required as we speak. And that's something which we have borrowed in our law school. That not just are we going with the same method, which is something which has been able to bring out the best of the best lawyers and professors and legal professionals, but we are trying to enhance it on the practical basis also. So if you say practical basis, we are in constant touch with the top law firms and the corporates in India. In fact, if you see our website also, Pallavi Shroff, Haigdeep Khaitan, Justice B.N. Sri Krishna, Justice U.U. Lalit. These are the people who are advising us. And these are the people who have been noticing right from the time national law schools have come into being to the latest BITS law school, which we are. These have been the people who have been noticing the legal profession. And they also are not just people who run law firms and stay relaxed. They are also researching on the kind of students who are joining them. They are very impressed, but they do believe that there is still scope of improvement. So they still think that there are certain things like drafting and conveyancing, financial structuring and restructuring, which should be taught at the law school level itself. Because what is happening is brilliant students are joining their firms, but there is an issue that when it comes to these small practical things, there is a gap. And that's what they want us to address. And that's how they are connected with us. And they are kind of recommending these things to our professors. And they are creating the course in, advice in line with the advice with them. And also the delivery mode of the same. So they are also telling them that how the delivery mode would be conducted. So what we are doing is we are teaching all the compulsory subjects as given by the Bar Council of India, but the addition which we are teaching them when it comes to national as well as international laws, so that our student is bracing himself for the next generation of of work of legal profession, where even foreign law firms are going to make their way into India, and Indian law firms are going to work for foreign law firms, not just in India, but they're going to transcend the boundaries and reach out to them. So that's basically the idea behind BITS Law School. We are not going to shell out just a law graduate. We are going to give you a global citizen who would step into the world and say that I'm ready for any kind of work you're ready to, you're going to give me. Even if it is corporate law, even if it is criminal law, even if it is space law, sports law, entertainment law, tech law, each of these things as recommended by the Bar Council of India, but also our own, courses which we have created on the basis of advice and the recommendations of these big names from the industry would be taught to the students. And that's what separates us from the pack. Not just this, I'll also say that we are also a university. We are also under a university called as BITS Pilani. The name itself is enough. The kind of guidance we would get from them in terms of tech, because tech and law is the next, the challenge which the humanity is looking at. And that's the kind of a marriage which we also are trying to manage and being under the same umbrella. That what we're going to do is we're going to see that how our campus would be useful to BITS Pilani and how BITS Pilani would be useful to us in terms of academic collaborations, and also making such kind of a collaboration where tech and law can be married and probably come out with the solutions which probably tech is facing, and also the legal world is facing vis-a-vis tech.
Right. So at least I'll pick 2 points out of it, and which really intrigued me. And the one is like I've been spent years in National Law University, and one thing I've realized it that there is a lack of global exposure, which you mentioned about that the students will be getting a global experience, which is a very great thing. I believe that I personally felt it that we lacked in our time. A and B, it is a follow-up question. What about you have told that many big leaders are joining from the law firms or the corporate area or the judges. So, will the BITS Law School support its students to get good internships, and will they help them in getting a good placements?
Okay, so I'm compelled to go back to my law school life, where when it came to internships and placements, believe me, we all used to go for recommendations. When it came to placements, I remember we used to create our own placement cell. You know, some of our own friends were a part of that placement cell. We used to again fund from our pocket, related to the brochures that are getting printed, the hospitality which had to be given to the recruiters who come. But the change at BITS Law School is the student need not do any of these things. He just needs to come here, study, perform, exploit the campus and its facilities as well as the faculties, and learn. Placement, internship, training for placement, training for even internship is being
Views.
considered to a department inside the university called as the Office of Career Services. It's their work right from the time the student is in the first year to make sure that they learn how to even create a resume. They'll guide them. They'll also monitor that how they are doing academically. They are the people who will also bring people from the industry to the campus and make sure that the students are trained for the challenges ahead. Because just think about it, like I said, the names which we are connected with, and the great geographical advantage which we have being in Mumbai is almost everyone is here. We'll get them, they'll come and they'll interact with the kids, with the students, and they'll inform them that in the year 2035 or 2030, this is what we are looking at. You better read and research these things. And they will also throw light on their requirements. Now, that is something that the Office of Career Service will do as a first thing, that they will introduce these law firms who will come and interact with our students, where they'll get get good orientation about, what they should be prepared about. And then the Office of Career Services will also train them for the same. The Office of Career Services work is nothing but to be in touch with all these firms in Mumbai, get an idea about the work that they do, get an idea about the internships that they offer, and also make sure that they convey the same to the students. Train them about how to create a resume for a, say, X firm, that this is their requirement, so this is how your resume should look like. Train them about the interview, that what all questions could be asked. Get them opportunities. Now, here there is a fine line which I'll be very clear about. The Office of Career Services will not get you inside, as in they'll get you inside the door. To impress you, they will teach you. But it is again upon the student to
Right.
get inside and make sure that they impress. Because as I said, law is a profession. It depends upon you. So we will craft them, we will, train them inside the campus to make sure that they are those individuals who are ready to impress. But then again, it's all about that particular individual, right?
Correct.
So get opportunities, you'll get all kind of facilities inside the campus where you'll go there, you'll be able to, impress upon them. So that's basically the work of Office of Career Services. And there is accountability also on Office of Career Services, because from their appraisal to everything depends upon how the students are placed, how the students get their internships. So it's something which is their work. They have to do it for the students. I remember what I used to do, or my friends in the placement committee used to do. It's not what they will be doing. It will be an Office of Career Services which will be specifically doing for them. Like I said, their work is to get into the campus, read, study, train themselves for the same, uh, stay relaxed about these works, because this is something for which a particular department has been created inside the university.
I will say you are doing the 80% of the job already for the
Okay,
students.
yes, yes. But as I said, we are just the ones who are crafting them.
Correct, correct.
Once the picture is complete, it's upon them to go and project themselves.
Yeah.
And as I said, it depends upon individual to individual how they do it. So I'm not lying here by saying that 100% placements will be given. That's a blatant lie if someone says it. It's
Correct.
upon individual. If someone comes here and thinks, okay, this is BITS law, I'm 100% going to get placed, it doesn't happen. It doesn't even happen in NLS. It doesn't happen in AIMS, because these two are like professional. These two are the institutions which create professionals, right? So it is about professionals to hone their skills and go out there and prove themselves. So we'll give them enough. As in, if 100 is required, we'll give them 200 opportunities, but it's upon them to prove, because no recruiter will hire you just because you are from BITS law. He will open the door because you are from BITS law, but he will meet you, he will judge you, and then only they take you. You're on mute.
Right. So now the follow-up regarding this question is, as we've been talking about a guidance that a student will be receiving a lot of guidance. There are different offices who will be guiding them. So with this, can you please let us know that what would be the average class size? And by asking this, I'm concerned about the ratio. As at least I have seen that we have faced the problem of teacher is to student ratio. So how your law school is planning to balance this?
Wonderful question. See, we are not going to go by the scales. Many universities might go for the scales. We are not into that. We have very clearly understood the market, and we can see that there is a dearth of what you call as individual attention, because of which what we have done is we've created a class size of 60 students in a batch. Now, when I say 60 students, that means 60 students of BA LLB. Then we have a batch size of 60 students of BB LLB. The complete pack of the students will be 120, right? Now, the classes would be of 60 students for these subjects. But then what about individual attention? For which what we have done specifically is we have tutorials also. So if you come to the campus, you will see that there is a classroom where all these 120 students can be seated, of 60 in one classroom and 60 in one classroom. We have some extra classrooms also. So parents are very intrigued and they ask you, this is an interim campus, why do you have so many classes? To which we tell them the concept of tutorials. Where in tutorials, what we're going to do is, specifically in tutorials, we're going to make the students sit in a pack of 30. We'll further divide them
Hmm.
at times into 15 also. And the faculty would sit, and it will be a one-on-one between the faculty and the student, where the student has to ask what all was taught inside the class. If there's a doubt, if there's a research paper they have in their mind, there's a question of law which disturbs them. That's the kind of an aura or an atmosphere which we are trying to build here, where they'll come, they'll study, they'll research, they'll try to be in touch with the faculty. So that's exactly what we have done in our campus.
So this is something amazing because I think this is the culture with the at least foreign universities adopt, that they have a 1:8 or 1:12 ratio. So this is something really great that we are adopting those standards, and it will definitely gonna help the students.
See, I believe, and in fact, the university also believes that we can do a lot of marketing, we can talk a lot about Bits Pilani legacy, but we understand one basic rule of academics. And that basic rule is the magic which takes place inside the classroom or inside the campus between a faculty and a student is what creates law school.
Correct.
Unless Bangalore was created like that. That's why they call it as the Harvard of the East. We are going to just enhance the experience. That's exactly our message.
Correct. So another aspect which I believe, and in fact I have seen in many universities, including national law universities, that one of the very prominent aspect of the legal education is the research. That throughout these years of graduation, a student must be equipped with a very professional legal research. So my concern and question over here is that what sort of facility your law school be arranging for students to have a proper legal database with which they can have a proper sound legal research.
Great. See, one of the most basic things about research is a well-equipped library and all those online resources which the student should have at its disposal. You won't believe the kind of budget that we have allocated specifically for the library and these resources. Plus, the faculty who are joining us are the ones who have written books, who have written articles in Oxford, Harvard, law journals, and they are the ones who are currently writing also,
Right.
where they are the ones who would be assisted by these students. Like I said, these tutorials are basically for that. But research is not everyone's cup of tea. You have to be very clear on this also. But there are some students who are too much into research because they love to read. They are very academically oriented, right? So in law school, we say it, in moot courts, there are some who are researchers, some there are who are presenters, and it's basically both of them who make a winning
Combined together.
so that's something which we are very clear about. So we have a mix of all these kind of faculties and the resources inside the library, which will necessitate this research. Plus, we have clubs and societies specifically aimed at these researchers. So I know some students because we are interviewing some students who are from this young age very sensitive about the issues which the society is facing and they want to do something about it through more and more research. They want to do what you call as empirical research. They want to reach out to people, and again I repeat, it is Mumbai the city where you see such a great socio economic gap where you can study the problems of India. I get very anxious when I see Hollywood portraying us the way they portray. It's a poor country, but when you come to Mumbai, that's exactly where you see that there is that gap. You see tall buildings and then you see slums.
Slums next.
What is basically the reason behind this gap is something which intrigues the student, and you will find every kind of a socio-economic background in this city. That's exactly, and moreover, it's not just restricted to one state or one language. It's so cosmopolitan in its own culture that you will find everyone from every state in the city. And that's exactly where the research takes place, right? So many of our professors are doing that. So I remember meeting one of the colleague here who's joining us, and I asked her that where are you heading from here? After giving the interview, she was heading for a research, and she was going to the Dharavi slums because she had an appointment with an NGO which was going to take her, and she was researching on something I don't want to disclose here, but it was very interesting. The way she is doing, and that's the kind of people who will induce a student's mind to do research and learn law better. And those kind of students who want to present, who are not into research, will also find it intriguing because one may research, the other has to be there to present this idea in a better way. You getting it? So that's the kind of an aura that we are trying to build here.
Correct. And so one last question I have, and this had been, I have kept this in last because this is a sort of concern for parents and even for students due to the recent circumstances and the prominent issues which we are facing among the students. So for example, you might have read the news recently, a student in NLU Odisha, Cuttack, committed a suicide. And oftentimes we hear about IIT Bombay, which is a very prominent institution, is famous for committing suicides. So, what sort of arrangement your law school will be doing so that a child is free from the activities like ragging or the peer pressure, or how they will be handling the different sorts of barriers? Like people do have a caste discrimination, racial discrimination. So, what sort of help will be providing, and do we have something to cope up with their mental health, because it is one of the very pressing issues at this point of time? So, please.
So, Naman, when you pointed out these things, these are various layers, under which these kind of things would happen. So, first I'll address the discrimination issue over which we are all, right from the dean to the person who is working, as a receptionist inside this campus, are being sensitized. And in every interview, I hope you know that we are a campus which are interacting with every student we are taking. The purpose behind it is basically, it's not just to filter, but also to orient the student about the psyche and the philosophies on which we stand, which is complete equality, zero discrimination, and zero tolerance towards anything which starts with racism to anything else. It's a campus where people from various socio-economic background are teaching and will be taught. And we have zero tolerance policy when it comes to these things. So you cannot bring on board. So in this interaction, the faculty would also try to nudge the student. So that student could be a topper, the student could be doing really good, on paper, but through our, because teachers are very experts, faculties are very experts in asking questions. And if you've seen our admission process also, we give that one word to the student which really titillates him to come ahead and express himself. And then there are questions with the faculty. So the faculty is judging the student even on those counts. That what is the perspective of the kid? Is he a bully? Is he over aggressive? Is he someone who is, you see what is happening in and around the country? There is a kind of a wave of aggression which is coming up. Is the child affected by the same? Even if they are intelligent, if they count positive in any of these counts which I just discussed, we are not selecting students. You won't believe it. Because number game is not something behind which we are running. In the very first year, we are thankful to all the stakeholders and everyone that there is so much of interest that students are showing, that our faculties are interviewing students from 8 o'clock in the morning now to 9 o'clock in the evening. That is how busy they are. So, but then tomorrow we don't want a faculty. I meet a lot of faculties from national law schools who are very unhappy with the kind of students that they're getting.
Right.
Pata nahi kahan se aa gaye. That is what they say. But we don't want that to happen, and that's why the faculties are the ones who are selecting the kids. So I remember, people think that entrance examinations are something which is a Western concept, but believe me, it's not a Western concept. It is very much an Indian concept. So institutions like Takshashila and Vallabhi, there was entrance exam, and that entrance exam was taken by the gurus. They used to come out of the gate, and there were a lot of shishya, the prospective ones who were sitting there. And they used to meet each of these candidates, and they used to ask them personality based questions. So I'm borrowing this from the research conducted by Professor Shailendra Mehta, who's someone I idolize a lot. He's right now the president of the institution called MICA. I worked with him. He's done a lot of research on universities, and he was the one who introduced me to this. The entrance examinations, Deepu, were the Indian concept, where the guru was not testing only the vidya or the knowledge of the student, but also his persona, testing something called as Gurutwakarshan. Gurutwakarshan means gravity in English, but there is a word guru in this, and there is a word akarshan in it, where there has to be a kind of an alignment between both of them. And that's precisely what our gurus are doing. They are not just testing your academic brilliance, they're also testing you about your psyche, because India, being an overpopulous country with lots and lots of biases and lots of things that you're seeing around, has kids who are getting affected by it. But if there is a scope of improvement, we are no doubt inviting them over, and we are making sure that those students can also come. So that is the first thing, first layer where we are filtering them. Second, like I said, economic disparity. Now, the campus, though, is full of modern amenities, but we are very clear that the attitude of everyone inside this campus will not be to judge a student by what or who he is. The attitude is how he or she can adapt to the knowledge which is getting imparted. You may be anything in this campus, but you are a student. So that comes from the tradition of BITS Pilani, where it started like a pathshala, you know, and then that's the culture which they have followed in BITS Pilani also. So that culture is something which we are following here also, where the teacher is someone who will guide you, who is going to make sure that when you sit in the classroom, you are nothing but a student. You have to you have to receive knowledge here. No doubt about it. In law school, you can share your knowledge also. That is also welcome. But that's how we are doing it. Ragging, we have a zero tolerance policy relating to ragging and also bullying. We are very clear on it. Ragging is something, which this year may not happen because it's our first year, but we are very clear on that. And we expect our students to be at that stage from when they say that ragging is too low for us. It's something which can be done in some campuses where probably, there is no culture. The culture here, which we are trying to encourage, is where the seniors would act as mentors, to their juniors. Because if a junior comes and looks up to you, you should have again that kind of a gravity to be a guru to the junior, where you are able to be very clear that, okay, this guy is coming here with a lot of dreams, let me help him out. The junior also needs to respect the senior. Like, we all have been to law school. The kind of relationship which we had with our seniors is still the same. I remember I was talking to one of my seniors a few days back, and I kept on calling him sir, to which he was like, Deepu, come on, we are outside the law school. Don't. And I told him that, sir, it comes from inside because that's how much we respect you.
That is how the relationships had been.
Exactly. I said, I respect you. And it just doesn't stop because his daughter was also on the line and I was talking to her because she wanted some guidance related to law entrance. And he said, come on, yeah, stop calling me sir. But I said, it doesn't happen. That's the bonding which happens in law school. And that's one level up which we are trying to engulf as a culture here, where people will build, as in, we want them to own this law school as their own campus, as their second home, and as something which is a kind of a belongingness in them. And that's in the culture. Believe me, the people who are helping us are all BITS Pilani alumni. So I recently met with the alumni association, member who even extended that whatever events pan India you are doing, just tell it to me because we are a family of lakhs of people and we spread the message across to them. So look at that. That's the culture here. That's the BITS planning culture, and that's exactly what we also are trying to adopt here. And we are very clear on that what all fears the parents have, we are going to take care. Now, the last leg which you discussed was of mental wellness. We are very careful about it because students are sensitive. Students are people who have to be dealt with in a very, very different manner because of their choices, because of the way they see. But then law is also not for weak. Law is for people who are mentally tough. That's something which we will encourage here. We will have counselors, we will have people who will take care of them in case they're sensitive. But our idea is to make them more and more tough because these are the kids, or these are the students who are going to sit with people who suffer with such kind of issues, guide them, for which you need to be very tough. You need to be that person who will make sure that the person realizes that what it takes to be mentally strong in a case. They might be handling victims of rape, victims whose family might be murdered, victims who's facing, abuse. And we expect you to be mentally more powerful. So when you are here, there can be moments of real depression where you feel that, oh, what is happening? But then we have people who can bring them back, who will assist them, who will make them realize what their true potential is. And as I said, we acknowledge the very fact that, you know, that does exist a situation where help is needed. And that help will be there inside the campus.
So thank you so much, sir. This was really helpful. Like I am feeling excited that if I had been in the class 12, I definitely would have joined the BITS Law School because
Thank
of the our experiences of the law university had been very different. Like we had a very raw experience, and what we are listening today is something really amazing, up to the mark of the foreign culture in the terms of education we have.
That's what, Naman, that's the idea that, what all we faced as students, we don't want the younger
Correct,
generation,
correct, correct.
but we also want them to be tough.
Uh,
Yeah,
That's something required, sir. That is how we had been trained earlier, that we need to be rigid in our system.
right, right, right.
So this is something very promising. I hope the students and the parents must be convinced, must be benefited by this answers.
Thank
And
you.
thank you so much, sir, for your time. That
You,
is
IMS, for creating this forum where we are able to answer to those queries which generally might not come out from
right,
the.
right.
Thank you for being that harbinger.
Thank you, sir. See you soon.
Pleasure, pleasure. Thank you so much.